Everybody in the world would like to be financially independent, but only 11% of people actually are. And that means that 90% of people have to work every day just so that they can survive. They spend most of their time in jobs they don't love without experiencing the world or living lives that they would actually enjoy. And if that's how you feel, then this video is for you. Because it doesn't have to be that way. Even a person with an average income could realistically retire in their 40s, and maybe even in their 30s. And I'm planning to reach financial freedom even faster than that, in my 20s. And no, I'm not going to tell you to invest in cryptocurrency, pick winning stocks, or to even start a side hustle. You don't have to do any of that. So if you give me just 10 minutes of your time, I'll explain how to realistically retire early with just an average income, the only two strategies you can use to retire even faster, and an extremely common mistake that a lot of people make that could slow down your journey to financial freedom and might prevent you from ever retiring at all. But before I get into all of that, I want you to think about this question. Why is it that almost everyone retires in their 60s, even though everyone earns a different amount of money? If you earn $100,000 per year, shouldn't you be able to retire faster than somebody earning $50,000 per year? But very few people actually do that. I have coworkers who make $200,000 per year, but they still plan to work until their 60s, just like everyone else. That's because when most people earn a ton of money, they also spend a ton of money. This is called lifestyle inflation, and it's the reason that so few people ever reach financial independence. But this is also the reason that even average people can retire early. If you avoid lifestyle inflation, retiring early isn't even that difficult. Because if you always want to spend more money, you will never be financially independent. You'll never be satisfied, you'll always want more, and you'll have to keep working just to afford the basic things that you think you need to be happy. And this is how most Americans live their lives. And that's why over 50% of people who earn over $100,000 per year are still living paycheck to paycheck. To realistically retire early, you have to disconnect your income from your expenses. Just because you can afford to buy a fast car or a big house doesn't mean that you actually should. And to be completely real with you, this lesson isn't just about money. Sure, if you're never satisfied with your current lifestyle, then yes, you will never reach financial freedom. But even worse, you'll never find a joy in life. There is no magic number that will make you happy and fulfilled. You have to decide for yourself what you need to have enough. And I know this is a bit of a rant, but this is actually the very first thing you need to do if you want to retire early as a regular person. If you want to realistically retire early, you have to know how much money you need to be financially independent. And how much money you need to retire does not depend on how much money you earn. What it depends on is how much money you spend every year. Annual spending depends on a lot of things, like where you live and whether you have kids and other stuff like that. I personally spent less than $20,000 last year, which is why I'm on track to retire before I turn 30 years old. But I know that's on the pretty extreme end of things, especially where I live. But you don't have to be that extreme. I want this video to be as realistic as possible for as many people as it can. So in this video, I'll assume you can live on $50,000 per year. And I don't want to hear anyone tell me that that's impossible. I literally know people living in some of the biggest and most expensive cities of the world, and they still spend less than $50,000 per year. And I spend less than half of that despite living in an area where the average apartment is going for over $2,500 per month. But if you want to use your own numbers, that's totally fine. The math is actually pretty simple, so just follow along with me. What actually matters is that we have a target. And if you can live on $50,000 per year, then we can then calculate how much money you need to be financially free and retire early. To calculate this, I use the 4% rule, which says you need about 25 times your annual expenses to retire early. This is just a rule of thumb, and I have a whole video explaining this rule and its caveats in a lot more detail. But using this rule of thumb, if you can live on $50,000 per year, then you would need $1.25 million to retire early. I know that might sound like a ton of money to some people, but let's break it down. I actually think that's a lot more realistic than a lot of people realize. Because $1.25 million might sound like a lot, but something that's going to make it way more achievable is investing. I typically assume about a 7% return on investment every year, even after being adjusted for inflation. Now, if you only save $100 per month, then yeah, you probably aren't going to retire early. But if you save just $500 per month, you would already be on track to retire after a 40-year career. That's not bad, but we can do way better. A super realistic savings target for most people is $1,000 a month. If you save that, you could be retired after about 31 years. If you started at 18 years old, you would have your $1.25 million and your financial freedom before turning 50 years old. You could retire before 99% of people, even though you only saved $1,000 per month and lived on a totally reasonable $50,000 per year. And of course, we can keep playing with the numbers. Save just $2,000 per month and you could be retired after just 23 years. Starting at 18, you could be retired early at just 41 years old, which is totally nuts. And even this is totally realistic for a lot of people. Here in America, saving $2,000 per month is about what it takes to max out your 401k. If that's all you did, you could be a millionaire and have your financial freedom in your 40s. And to show you just how doable early retirement is for the average person, let me show you something. The average American family consists of 2.4 people and makes $83,195 per year even after taxes are taken out. If you can live on $50,000 per year, which again is totally reasonable for a family of 2 or 3, then you would be saving $33,195 per year, or $2,766.25 every single month. That could be over $1.25 million in less than 20 years. So I'm tired of people saying that early retirement isn't doable for average people. The average American couple could retire in their early 40s without earning a crazy high income or even being that frugal. But if you aren't on track to retire early, or just want to retire early even faster, then I've got good news for you. There are 2 strategies you can use to retire early even faster. And both of these strategies can be powerful. But one of these strategies is way more powerful than the other. So after I walk you through both of these strategies, I'll show you how an average couple could retire in just 15 years, even if they only used one of these strategies. The first strategy is to subscribe to my free Fire Friday newsletter, which is linked in the description. That's not actually one of the 2 strategies, but hey, it wouldn't hurt. But to understand the 2 strategies that I'm about to explain, you need to understand one simple formula. Wealth is just the difference between income and expenses over time. That's really all there is to it. And that's why the first strategy is so obvious. Just earn more money. This isn't rocket science. More money is better. If you currently save $1,000 a month and you can start to save an extra $1,000 a month, you could retire 8 years faster. But remember that this strategy will only work if you don't do what most people do. Because when most people earn more money, they just spend more money. If you do that, earning a higher income might not help you retire faster, because you'll have to save even more money to be financially independent. But even if you do keep your spending the same, earning more money isn't nearly as good as a lot of people think it is. And that's because every extra dollar you earn is going to be taxed. I pay about 37.5 cents in taxes for every new dollar I make, which means I would have to earn an extra $19,000 per year just to save an extra $1,000 per month. I don't know about you, but earning an extra $20,000 per year would be pretty difficult. I would need a lot more people to smash the like and subscribe button. But if you can earn more money, then awesome. But even if you can, you should not ignore this second strategy to retire early even faster. Because it turns out there's an even more powerful way to supercharge your early retirement. Because if wealth is just the difference between income and expenses, then you can also just decrease your expenses. And surprisingly, reducing your expenses is 40 times more powerful than increasing your income. And let me show you why. The rule of thumb is that you need $25 in retirement savings for every $1 you spend in a year. But that means if you can spend $1 less, then you magically need $25 less to retire. And even better, you don't owe any more taxes for saving your money. So if you earn an extra $10,000, you might only take home $6,500 of that. But if you reduce your expenses by $10,000, then you'll have an extra $10,000 in the bank account, and you'll need $250,000 less to retire. And that's why reducing your expenses is 40 times more powerful than increasing your income, and why the fastest way to retire early is just by living a less wasteful and less expensive lifestyle. And even better, reducing your expenses takes zero extra work. No late hours at the office or weekend side hustles required. And this makes early retirement way more realistic for average people. So let me show you how the average person could retire in just 15 years without increasing their income, and then I'll show you a super common trap that you have to avoid. Earlier, I assumed that the average American family of 2 or 3 people could live on $50,000 per year, which would require about $1.25 million to retire. But what if you could live on $40,000 per year? This is still totally realistic for the average American family, but by being just a little more frugal, you'd be saving an extra $10,000 per year, and you would need $250,000 less dollars to retire early. Remember that the average American household makes $83,195 per year after taxes. Spending $50,000 per year, you could be financially independent in about 19 years. But reduce your expenses from $50,000 to $40,000 per year, and you could be financially independent in just 14 years, because you'd be saving more and you would need less money to retire. That's an extremely early retirement. We're talking about an average couple retiring in their 30s, and that's super realistic. That's only assuming the average annual income of $83,195 and a very modest spending of $40,000 per year, which is totally doable. And of course, I hope you run the numbers for your own situation. But if you take nothing else away from this video, I hope you realize that early retirement is totally realistic for average people. You don't have to start a business or do a lot of the things that other influencers will tell you. A lot of those things just aren't realistic for the average person anyway. If all you do is make some modest adjustments to your spending, you'll probably already be on track to retire early. But before you go rushing off to retire early, let me warn you about a common trap that could ruin your dreams of early retirement and could prevent you from ever retiring at all. Because look, I told you that the only 2 ways to increase your wealth was to either increase your income or spend less money. But that isn't actually true. There's a third way to increase your wealth, which is to earn a higher rate of return on your investments. And a lot of people prefer to use this strategy, because if you can increase your investment returns, then you don't have to earn more money or spend less money. You'd have more wealth for zero extra work. But there's just one problem with this strategy, which is that it doesn't actually work. 92% of professional money managers have failed to beat the market over the last 15 years, which means you probably aren't going to either. And even worse, after one of my last coaching calls, one of my clients literally asked me about lottery tickets, which are almost guaranteed to lose you money. Yes, if you win the lottery, you can skip all of the hard work and go straight to financial freedom. But you're more likely to be hit by a meteor. So many people get desperate trying to reach financial freedom. And when people get desperate, they take big risks and try to get lucky. But the whole point of this video was to show you that you don't need to get lucky to retire early. Financial freedom is totally realistic, even for average people. But this isn't even the only dumb mistake that people make with their money. And honestly, if all you did was fix your bad money habits, you would probably already be on track to retire early. So to help you do exactly that, I made an entire video where I'll walk you through 8 super common money habits that can ruin your wealth. So make sure to check that out right here.